Living green or sustainably is about more than saving on your electric bill and doing your part to protect natural resources. It is about a safer and healthier life for you and your family without sacrificing style, quality, or budget. This is a movement to provide all of us with clean air to breathe and water to drink, safe, healthy food to eat, and places to live, and energy to run the places where we live, learn, play, and work. The Green Gap podcast helps you get the value of green for you, your family, and your community. Whether it's green homes, green living, or the people who make it happen, join me, Marla Esser-Close, to learn how green and sustainability practices and products work for our world and you. Good morning. This is Marla on the Green Gap podcast, and I don't usually tell y'all the date we're recording, but I am going to today because there is so much happening in our world, and that led me to reach out to our guest today because I feel she has something really helpful to share with all of y'all. So, with that being said, today is Monday, March 23rd, 2020, and we are in the middle of an unprecedented pandemic across the world. And I really like how somebody put it the other day that this was the temporary new normal. Then I've got another woman I follow that said she is cocooning with her family. So I love the positivity that's coming out with it. And Jackie, this is Jackie Marie Beyer of the Organic Gardener podcast. And we have podcasted before. And I reached out to you, Jackie, because I knew you would have some great information to share with our listeners. How are you this morning?
Well, I am super fantastic, and I'm so glad you reached out to me. And I just thank you for sharing with your audience today and just everybody out there, because it is unprecedented, time
Yes.
in my lifetime for sure. There's never been anything like this, but I'm always super optimistic and positive and feel like
Yes, you are.
we are going to come out stronger in the long run. And so I'm thankful. I mean, I'm very blessed because I live in Northwest Montana, but as I told you in pre-chat, I have family in New York. So, it's new, but
Yeah.
we were going to talk about some things we can do for Mother Nature that will help people learn, right?
Absolutely. Because, both of us are such believers that there is always something we can do. And one of the things that came up is, well, it would be nice. We haven't grown a garden in the last couple of years. We've usually just done container gardens. And I was like, this would give us something to do, productive. Plus, it would give us fresh vegetables or herbs or produce to eat. So I started looking up online, like easiest vegetables to grow and how to grow indoors and container garden and all this stuff. And then I'm like, wait a second. I need to call Jackie.
Awesome.
So hence, I've now called you, who is my resident expert on all things gardening. And for folks that haven't heard us before online, give us just a quick background on why you are the Organic Gardener podcast and how you came into this. And folks, once you hear this, you'll understand why I called her.
Okay. So I started my podcast back in 2015 with the intention that my husband, who is the head gardener at our house, would teach people how to garden, because I basically started out with a brown thumb where I could barely keep like basil plant alive in my windowsill or a geranium, which geraniums are like one of the easiest plants to grow. They don't need a lot of water or care. Put them in a pot and they bloom. If you deadhead them, they'll bloom prolifically until winter. So that was my thing. And now I just posted interview 311 this morning. And in 5 years, I have just talked to the most amazing gardeners who have shared their knowledge. And with them, like each year, I spend more time in the garden. I've learned more, but also I've done all of this while working full time practically. So I don't always have the time to spend in the garden. So I know what it's like to be a busy person. And so one of the things we were going to talk about today was like, I often talk about what I would do if I had to start over without my husband here. So like some of the easier vegetables to plant, some of the secrets for like having an organic landscape. Like my husband and I wrote this book called The Organic Oasis Guidebook, which talks about, whether, because vegetables is like a whole separate learning curve from gardening. There are gardeners who only grow vegetables. There are gardeners who only grow flowers. There are gardeners who only, have a landscape. And then there are gardeners who do all of the above. And like even at our house, like we have a garden, but then my husband and his goal is to grow as much of our food to like supplement our produce bill as we can grow. And so he has this little thing, I call it the mini farm. That's like intense gardening. And, he's been growing food. He grew up on a 1,200 acre cattle ranch, and just like his family, they had 4 boys and they grew food, that got them through the winters, And so whereas I grew up outside of New York City, and my mom was always a gardener. And also like, I can call myself the organic eater on my show. I can cook pretty good, healthy food. I know a lot about nutrition, and I love to eat all the vegetables and the fruits that my husband grows for me. But I'm kind of spoiled. Like he gets the beds ready a lot, and he does a lot of the weeding, and he's always on me in the summer. Like, you didn't water today. And I'm like, but I watered yesterday. He's like, in the summer, you have to water every single day. So that's my story in a short, that was probably longer than you thought. But one of the things that makes my show the complete success is amazing guests like you, Marla, who shared your expertise. Because we do talk a lot about like secrets to be more productive. So like when you are gardening, you can be like effective and efficient, because there is a lot of work to get produce. And so it had something to do with my expert guests sharing their tips. And you've been one of my guests sharing.
Thank you. You do get some amazing guests in all different aspects of gardening, which was exactly because I'm like, okay, here we are in this unprecedented time. And we're all wanting to take action. Plus, we're all basically, we're not quite homesteading, but it probably feels a lot like homesteading to a lot of people because we're at home more than we've likely ever been for many of us.
And I do see
I work at home and I'm still feeling like, wow, this is a lot of home.
Oh, totally. And I'm like the claustrophobic person. Like I have to have gas in my car and be able to go. And I'm so blessed that I live in, Northwest Montana, where we have tons of logging roads and I can get away from people very easily. But for people that aren't, or for people who are like, I definitely see a big trend on social media of people cooking more and eating healthier snacks and feeding their kids that are home more healthier snacks, and people sharing cooking. And like I, as like a teacher, so I'm an elementary school teacher by trade, which is funny because our school actually, this is our official spring break this week. Like we were not going to be at school this week anyway. And when they closed our schools last week, most parents just told the kids it's an extended spring break. Some of them did, like we tried to get some work out, but like, it was just like, so I was in my classroom a week ago Sunday, like cleaning and bleaching everything. And I called all my parents. I'm like, yep, we have school tomorrow. And then an hour later, the governor closed all our schools. So, it's very, yeah. And then, so last week was kind of like a heyday. And then this week we're officially on break, but I have been like, trying to find things to post for my students. And like, we're thinking about if we don't go back on Monday, like we are required to teach online or provide things for our students and what that's going to look like. And I love posting like authentic garden. I've been posting authentic garden math problems and challenges for like the last 2 years. So anyway.
And that's awesome. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I think like parents ask me.
Like figure out the plot of a garden or something. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like we're doing area, like we started doing area at the end of second grade. And so when I was teaching second grade back in 2016, like I posted a lot of those. Like I thought, like, what would I want my kids to know over the summer? And I don't know, I just always like, it started actually like one winter when we were closed for a snowstorm and I started making videos for my kids, like how to count money and stuff, change that you had around the house. And just, I've always been making videos like that.
I got to teach second graders with junior achievement. It was so fun.
Oh yeah. Kids love gardening. And so, and you know what's great about it? Like, carrots are like one of the easiest things to grow, but they're really hard to plant for humans. But for little kids, like they fit in their hands. Like I always try to get my grandkids here to plant carrots because the seeds are so tiny. And if you don't want to have to thin a ton of carrots, little kids are better at spacing them out than me, where like I space out like the first 10 and then I end up like dumping the packet because I'm just like, ugh. And I always say I'm going to make this thing called, it's called seed tape, where you take like a flour and and water paste, kind of like paper mache and like strips of newspaper, and put the carrot seeds like one every, inch or wherever, however you want them to space out. And then you could just plant that. But I have never done it. I did it at a seed fair and I say I'm going to do it every spring and I never do it, but I know it works. So that's a fun project parents can do, or even like adults who want to spread out their carrots.
Right. So let's go back. So, okay. Number one is we can grow stuff in our houses, even if we're indoors, right?
Oh yeah. We were going to talk about that, like some container things and like some easy things that you can.
Yeah. So let's start there. And then maybe what your kids could even do, right?
Yeah. I mean, I can talk about that. Like I've been teaching elementary school for almost 20 years now, and I've got quite a bit of experience of dealing with kids and how fun it is to be in the garden. Like I'm glad we're in a time where there are more school gardens and kids are eating fresher food. Like, and one thing that always drove me crazy was like, you would hear things like, oh, kids aren't going to eat fresh fruit and vegetables if you give them healthy snacks. Let me tell you, my kids always eat them. Like you might get 1 or 2 kids out of 17 that don't, but the other 15 will just scarf the extras down. Especially they love oranges, apples, cherry tomatoes, celery, carrots. Like they love all that stuff. Anyway, a little off topic there. So things you can grow indoors.
So let's help them grow this stuff.
So my favorite thing to grow indoors are herbs in pots on my windowsill. Like I always have a basil plant. So we're in Northwest Montana, which I think we're zone 4B. And we're kind of close to the Rocky Mountains. So we can get a frost practically any day of the year. Maybe there's like 2 weeks in July where we're safe, but like we've had a frost as early as August 8th. We've had frost in the middle of July, like pretty much. So you have to be prepared. And basil does not like a frost. So that's something I will almost always keep on my windowsill. Now, if I'm having a year where I want to make a lot of pesto, maybe I'll put some extra plants outside, but I like to have a basil plant on my windowsill at all times. And that's something you can plant now.
And does it take anything special or do you just put it in a pot?
Yeah. So that's the nice thing about basil. It does, like, if you try to grow it, I've tried to grow it in December and the days just aren't long enough. But right now it is perfect time to put a basil. Yeah. So just a pot with some seed starter.
Because it needs more sun.
I like an organic seed starter. Like there's a brand Espoma, which I think you can get like pretty much anywhere, like Walmart or Amazon online, or probably your local nursery, but just try to get some good seeds, quality seed starter. And then, yeah, just put it in a pot, maybe a 3-inch pot, maybe bigger, a clay pot, with some dirt if you have a clay one, or a plastic pot, or even like a recycled container. Just maybe put a few pebbles in there for some drainage on the bottom. The other thing I like about a plant on my windowsill over by my sink is that it's easy to water, which I think we've already mentioned. Like I have watering issues. I am not the most nurturing plant person in the world.
Does basil need direct sunlight? You said sunlight was so important for basil, which I didn't realize that might be. I haven't had lots of stuff.
Well, mostly like just the hours of sunlight you get in a day. Like, end of November, December, you're not getting enough daylight in the day to get a plant to start. If you already have that plant growing, it'll probably grow. But I'm pretty sure I've tried to plant basil seeds in November, December, and they don't grow. But like now at this time of year, it should take right off. And just, yeah, you want to have it somewhere it's going to get sun. But if it gets a lot of sun, like my kitchen window is in a north facing, it's going to get late afternoon sun, and they thrive there. But yeah.
Like my kitchen sink is like 5 feet from windows, but they're on the south side.
Well, that might be better because the south side could bake it.
But would they like indirect sunlight, or like should I put them in the windows?
I think I would say I would try it. I usually keep my basil plant in the window, but like a rosemary plant, like I moved a rosemary plant that I had that was doing so good. And rosemary is like one of the things I always struggle to grow. And I did buy the plant I didn't plant seeds. I bought like a start at a farmer's market, and it was growing on my windowsill. It was doing great. And then I moved it over by the window, and it just came back. Like I left for the weekend and came back, and it was just dead. So if something's growing really well, I would keep it where it is.
Leave it alone.
Now, my friend Nola, she has these huge rosemary. She can get them to grow like crazy. But she does keep them indoors in Montana in the winter. But it's so nice to have.
Does she talk to them or something?
I definitely think she talks to them, and she just has a green thumb. But I want to say she does something with like Epsom salt, where she puts like a teaspoon of Epsom salt in like, a quart of water or a gallon of water or something. And then she uses that water to water that plant for like the whole month. Like she has this special pot of water with the Epsom salt somewhere, and she waters the plant. That's like only for that plant, maybe, or maybe she does all of her plants. I just know I was telling her about my rosemary troubles.
Okay, we may need to find her secret because that sounds wonderful.
Yeah, and so it kind of depends, but rosemary is so good on so many things. Arugula is another one that I love. That's not necessarily an herb. I don't know. Some people call it an herb. Some people call it a lettuce, but
you can grow it like an herb. Okay.
I love about arugula is you can use the leaves when they're like as tiny as like the nail on your pinky, but they can also grow up to be like a full-size leaf, like a leaf of lettuce that's like, as bigger than a couple of fingers,
I didn't know that.
But you can start to use them and just put them on a salad, like they look like little 4-leaf clovers, or on a sandwich or something. You'll get so much flavor out of them. So you can start like, instead of like succession planting, it's just like you start picking just a few here while the others are growing. I love arugula, and especially since I went to Paris, I love it even more. But yeah, you can start eating arugula and get flavor from it. And it's just the fresher it is and the smaller it is, it seems like the more flavor it has. Although once it gets like on the other side, it can get a little on the bitter side. Like if it's growing outdoors, towards like July, it can get better. But then arugula is really nice as a fall crop. Like I picked arugula not last Christmas, but the Christmas before, at least at Thanksgiving, like through the snow in early December here in Montana. And I wish I would have had it last year because we had such a mild winter. It would probably still be growing if I would have planted it.
Yeah. But a good window crop still, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so, and let's take a quick break. And when we come back, let's give everybody like the top 5 things to grow on your windowsill, and then we'll move on to like bigger containers.
Oh, okay.
We'll be right back. Hey, this is Marla Close, the Green Home Coach, and I am the author of Living Green Effortlessly, Simple Choices for a Better Home. And in this book, besides talking about a bunch of stuff, about green and sustainability products and practices you can easily take in your home, also talk about home maintenance and how important this is to having a home that serves you rather than you serving it. Seasonal home maintenance checklists are a big part of this, and I teamed up with colleague Tina Gleisner from Home Tips for Women to use her maintenance checklist, actually included in the book, starting on page 96. And if you have the book, look them up. But I wanted to give you a brief excerpt from the book to get you excited about why home maintenance checklists, I know that doesn't sound very exciting, but why they are so important. So, maintaining a home is actually a 3-part ongoing process: inspect, maintain, and update. To help you keep track of what you've done and plan to do, make notes on the checklist. First, inspect. If you've only got an hour to spare, pick one exterior side of the house or one room inside to inspect. Note the date you did this on the checklist and flag items needing maintenance or repairs so you can schedule time or make a list for your handyman or handywoman. Second, maintain. Keep your home safe, such as smoke detector batteries. Keep your home energy efficient, like furnace air filters, and prolong the useful life of many home features, like caulking bathroom tile. Write it down when you complete a task, keeps you from guessing later on. And third, update. Take advantage of improved materials and fixtures, upgrade to new building codes, and evaluate when it makes more sense to make an improvement rather than repair, such as replacing a bathroom floor rather than repairing the grout. Check out the book or give me a holler and I'll hook you up online to get the maintenance checklist for yourself. If you'd like to have the entire book, please go to livinggreenbook.com for a multitude of ways to purchase it for yourself. Thanks again. This is Marla, the Green Home Coach. Well, we're back on the Green Gab podcast today, talking with Jackie of Organic Gardener Podcast. And Jackie, you have so much great advice, and I am just amazed at how many podcasts you've done. But you were on a roll talking about herbs that we can grow inside in our windowsills, and you were going to give us a list of your favorite herbs.
Okay. Well, I love to grow on my windowsill basil. I love parsley. I like rosemary if I can keep it growing. I like arugula is one of my favorite spices because arugula you can either when it's like itty bitty teeny tiny, like the size of your pinky nail, the nail on your pinky, like when the leaves are that small, they'll give you like a boost of taste, like on a sandwich or a salad or something. Or you can wait till the leaves get, full size, like a regular lettuce leaf. So one of the reasons I love arugula, and it does really good in your windowsill or in your garden. And then cherry tomatoes. Like I always say, like I have a new gardener challenge where I like a cherry tomato in a pot.
Okay. I like that idea. It might be a little big for a windowsill, but still go in a window, right?
Yeah, it would depend on your window. I guess I'm thinking like on the floor next to a window.
Okay.
And like that'd be something that you could bring in if you put it out or put it out on the patio during the summer and then bring it in.
So I have a question for you. Do you recommend growing from seeds or from starter plants?
Well, if you can get a starter plant at the farmer's market, oftentimes that's going to go faster. But and some seeds are easier to propagate than others. Some like a warmer soil. But basil, I just always buy basil seeds and put those in the ground. I planted the parsley in the ground. Lots of other people have better luck with cilantro than I do. But I know, cilantro is another one you can grow in a pot.
I love cilantro. I might try that in a pot. That sounds really good.
So rosemary, I think, is really hard to get to grow. Lavender's another one. Like if you're going to get lavender, I would get that from somebody who's already started a plant for you.
Okay. So it kind of depends on the plant.
Absolutely.
Okay. And if all else fails, just get started.
Yes. Because, it's always an experiment. I even last winter, and maybe that's where that parsley is from. I went to my produce section and where they have the live herbs and you buy the plugs.
Yeah.
And I will put those in dirt and they, if they don't grow, they don't grow. You were just buying it for an herb anyway, but a lot of times they will take off.
Okay.
And that works. So I've done that in the middle of January, February when I'm just craving something fresh and green.
Okay. So let me restate here, because I can't read my notes. Basil, number 1. Arugula. You keep talking about that, so I got to try that.
No, arugula I grow from seed.
You do grow arugula from seed. Okay, good to know.
Yeah.
I got to go get some arugula seed. You talked about rosemary, which you said can be touchy for some. Oregano. And cherry tomatoes, which are not an herb, but good for container gardening.
And they go good with herbs.
And gosh, there's nothing better than just having a handful of cherry tomatoes in the middle of the summer when you pluck them right off the vine. I love them. Okay, did I miss any?
Yeah, or they make the best sauce, just a little bit of fresh garlic sauteed in olive oil, and cherry tomatoes can make the best sauce with a little fresh basil or oregano sprinkled, some dried oregano sprinkled on there.
Yum.
I think that is the most simple, basic sauce because they're good. You can grab a handful, but they're going to come on. One of the things, we're in Northwest Montana, so it's a colder temperature. So it's nice to have them. They're going to get ripe and they're going to be easy to bring in.
Okay.
If you get a freeze or cover up, it's nice to have a plant, or you can move it closer to the house where it's a little sheltered.
Okay. So this is a great place to get started.
Absolutely.
Windowsill gardening. Now, the other thing you had mentioned to me offline, I think is a great idea, is sprouts. I hadn't even thought about this.
Well, I go come December, because Mike has got to the point where he grows almost enough produce that I don't have to buy produce from August to November.
Awesome.
So then come December, I am walking through the stores going, oh, do I have to when you're used to fresh homegrown vegetables, trying to buy a thing of lettuce that's sprayed with the water and you're going to put it in the bag and it's going to come home and you're lucky if you eat it before it gets soggy. At least that's what happens to me a lot. Or you're buying the plastic container, and a lot of us we're going to try not to buy single-use plastic tubs. You're buying the plastic tub of spring mix. So I struggle with that because, trying to go through a whole tub with just me before it goes bad is a challenge sometimes. So anyway,
the answer is
come December, I like to start making sprouts. And, you can buy one of those sprout jars, or you can just take a large mason jar and take a piece of...
How large?
A quart mason jar, and cover the bottom with I recently bought, it was a radish, clover, and there was something else in it mix that I got for $6 at the organic health food store. But radish seeds are really good. Alfalfa seeds are really good. Broccoli seeds are really good, but they tend to be, fairly pricey, but they make a really good tasting sprout. I think you can get a lot of different tasting sprouts anymore.
So just go to your favorite seed provider and look for sprout seeds?
And often, a lot of times, they sell them at the health food store, even if they don't sell regular seeds. As a matter of fact, like, I don't think you're going to find them at the hardware store.
Okay.
If you buy seeds at your hardware store or something.
Right. So if you're buying plants from a big box, they're not likely to have sprout seeds.
Yeah, it's probably more likely to be somewhere you're buying your produce.
Okay.
And so, or somewhere where they have the jars. Like, they usually sell the glass jar, and it comes with like a yellow, a red, and a green lid. And like the yellow lid has like a really fine mesh, and then the green lid has like a medium mesh, and then the red lid has the most open holes, so that as the seeds sprout, they can fall out. The seeds will go away, and then you just have your sprouts in there. And so the first day, you put the seeds on the bottom and just soak it with water for 24 hours. So put like 2 inches of water, a layer of seeds, 2 inches of water in your mason jar. And then, I mean, you can just use like a window screen, like if you have an old window screen sitting around, or you can buy that window screen fabric at the store. That will work too. Because I think those kits are like $10 now for the plastic lids. You can get one of those kits at Amazon, probably delivered anymore.
Okay, so if you're doing it at home, do you have to have the screen, or can you just do it in the jar?
Well, somehow you got to be able to rinse them, and the seeds aren't going to fall out, because when they're really little, the seeds are really tiny when like the first couple of days. So that's the way, like the yellow lid, like the seeds aren't going to fall out as they're sprouting, and then as they sprout, and it's just like the coolest science thing. Like, I had my little scientist student do it. Like, it was his like extra thing he could earn to do, because he was always trying, like, we would like get the snack, and he would like be like, I'm going to save these apple seeds to plant. Here, look, I'm going to put these seeds from the peas in the ground. And I'm like, all right, this is not going to work. It's October. You can't put a seed in the ground here. And pretty much, I don't think we grow apple trees from apple seeds anymore. Like, it's all grafting. And I was like, I don't think those seeds are going to, but he wants to. So I finally was like, here, I'm bringing you some sprouts. Make me some sprouts. And it's so nice in the middle of February. So then the whole jar will fill up. And the blend I have now is really spicy. So it's got a lot of flavor. So you only need like a little bit, but you can put them on sandwiches or salads or pizza or omelets, or I can put sprouts on anything.
And then you've got a little bit of fresh produce, a lot of flavor, and it's something you grew at home.
And it looks fancy. Like a lot of restaurants, you know, like that's a fancy little garnish that they put on top of a salad.
Yeah.
So it makes it look elegant.
5 myths of green homes are 5 things that you probably believe about green homes that may be costing you thousands of dollars. Which myth do you hear the most? Get your copy of 5 Myths at greenhomecoach.com and click on the button for 5 Myths of Green Homes. You can also connect with me on Facebook at Green Home Coach and let me know the green home myth you hear the most. I'll also share tips, products, and resources. Be sure to download your copy of 5 Myths of Green Homes now, and then check back to learn more. Hey, we're still here on the Green Gab, and Jackie, I took advantage of that little space to refill my coffee for one thing, but I was checking out Facebook. Okay, you're going to love this. So my neighborhood has a Facebook page, and somebody had posted, hey, here's an old victory garden from World War II. Can we do this in our neighborhood? I thought that was really cool.
Awesome. Yeah. I think there's going to be a lot of gardens popping up this year. I mean, the seed stores are just like, if you go to buy seeds online, so many places are closed down or sold out. Or, I mean, I know a lot of it's like the cleaning, but I think there's a huge surge. And like, we went to buy dirt the other day, and the guy was like, I was like, yeah, I called you yesterday. Remember? He's like, 30 people called me yesterday, which is like a lot for him.
That's crazy.
So yeah, I think there's a huge surge in gardening.
So like maybe I should remind my husband to get dirt while he's out.
Yeah, I absolutely would like say that's one of the things that's going to be going quick, because people are home and they're thinking, now I have time to garden, and, you know, it's a great thing to do with the kids, and let's have some fresh food. And people who are gardening, you know, people who already garden are probably hard at it, because they're like, wow, I can work from home. Well, I can get this done and that done. Right.
And it's so therapeutic to dig in the dirt.
Oh, yeah. And get you in touch with nature and to grow something. And just in Montana, it's such a beautiful spring. So everybody wants to be outside, and it's cool and the air is crisp. And I don't know, it's hard. I know my husband's chomping at the bit to get his garden in.
So let's kind of go back, since we've been talking about things people can do. For those of us that are a little bit more green thumb challenged, which is crazy that I'm a green home coach, yet I feel very non-green thumb. We talked about herbs on the windowsills. We talked about growing sprouts in jars, which I am so totally going to go do. And then we were just getting on with container gardening. And so this is kind of the step into bigger stuff, right?
Yeah. Well, like I was saying, I mean, we've built containers out of everything. Like a lot of times Mike will build containers out of like an old an antique water trough. And what's really nice about containers is you can move them around when the sun moves, as the seasons change and the sun moves, or you can, have them close to your house. Or if you just have a porch, you can grow things like, there's this guy, Craig LeHoulier, who wrote this book called Epic Tomatoes, and he just only plants his tomatoes in his driveway. And he has a driveway full of like 25 giant or 50 giant tomato plants that just all grow in pots. He just either puts them in pots, or he might have these cloth bags, maybe different things.
Oh, I'm so glad you said that. I have some of those cloth bag pots.
Yeah, they're kind of the new thing that a lot of people are growing.
Yeah, so explain those more, because I don't know if a lot of people have heard of those yet.
So they're kind of like a burlap sack, but probably like, with a newer synthetic type of material maybe, but it breathes. It's good. Sometimes it's easier to haul around. You can put, one of the reasons soil health on my show is just a theme consistently is what's nice about a container garden is you can, have a lot of say about what soil you're using, because you're going to get it from another source. It's not like just digging into your ground. So if you have really clay ground, or like one in the Rocky Mountains, so we have really rocky ground, or if you, in a container, you can really control the source, which, is a reason why a lot of people like deep beds. So a container is just a smaller, form of a deep bed, but people grow just about anything you want in a bed. But anyway, so those bags are, just like a fabric, so they breathe really nicely. One thing Mike talks about them is a lot of times if they're black, he'll want to put like a white sheet or fabric around them, or even like a pot.
So they don't get too hot?
Summer, yeah, you don't want your roots to cook. So depending on the time of the year, those are the kind of things. And that's why sometimes it's nice to be able to shade things. I think it also depends on the plant. Some things want warmer, soil, or like peppers are a great thing to grow in a pot. And we grow a lot of peppers because then in the fall, you can bring it in and can sit in your windowsill, and the peppers will actually, turn red on your windowsill, whereas they're just going to be green and they're still growing.
So what are your favorite things to grow in containers or pots?
My favorite things. So another thing, like Mike grew this giant marigold one year. So he's big on companion planting, and like marigolds are really good for growing with your tomatoes because they put out a really strong scent, and a lot of insects don't like that scent. So it's considered like a companion plant because it will help keep bugs that are going to eat your tomato leaves and eat your tomato plants away, or cucumbers. So we always have a lot of, and nasturtiums are another one, and those can both grow in containers. So they're not necessarily something you're going to eat, but you can put them either in the same pot, so it makes it pretty. Like if you have a cherry tomato plant or a pot on your container, you can put like the marigolds around the base of it, or like sometimes having it in its own pot. Like Mike got this just monster marigold one year. Like a lot of times if you can put some of the best dirt in there, and your plants will get bigger that way than then. So I always like to put like petunias. I'm big on flowers though. So I don't know, do you want to hear more about flowers or about vegetables in a pot, or do you not care?
Well, right now, let's talk about vegetables. But I love this idea of companion planting. And I was always told to plant things in twos. So for pollination, is that right?
Yeah. And sometimes maybe even more than that. Like, because Mike used to put like some eggplants, and he found that the real secret to getting like his eggplants would grow really big, and he'd get the beautiful purple flowers, and they'd get really full, but then we would never get the fruit. And so, yeah, like you said, pollination. And we had to have more than two with the eggplants. But yeah, some vegetables, yeah, you want to have at least two. So good container plants, I would say like tomatoes, Cucumbers do really good in a container. You can grow squash in a container. One secret I always tell people about like zucchinis, because nobody, was like, what do you do with that monster zucchini? Is harvest them. Harvest them when they're the size of a quarter. You can put zucchinis on sandwiches. You can put zucchinis in eggs. They're just kind of like the sprouts. You can put them on anything. And they can grow pretty good in a container. And the nice thing about putting them in a container is that they tend to take up more room. And so then they won't overcrowd your other vegetables.
I actually had good luck with Japanese eggplants one year.
Nice.
I know. And so if y'all don't know what Japanese eggplants are, they're small.
They're kind of a skinnier, aren't they?
Yeah, and they're much more tender. But we throw them on the grill, just put a little olive oil and a little sea salt on them and throw them on the grill all the time. And they were wonderful.
Yeah.
My one success.
I always feel like the biggest thing is like plant what you're going to eat. So,
okay, that's good advice.
If people don't eat eggplants, because I know that's kind of a acquired taste sometimes, like, or even just like plant like 1 or 2 eggplants, but don't plant a ton of them. But if you do like to eat eggplants, I mean, I love eggplants. You can make eggplant parmesan, or you can grill it like you said, or I'll just put it like in stir fry. So, but they grow, like I said, they have the prettiest purple flowers and they grow good in a container. But also, like I said, I think to me, the big thing about a container is like something that's going to grow above ground does going to contain things like root crops, like carrots, potatoes, beets. Those tend to maybe you want something like more like a garden bed outdoors. Okay. So you need ground for those. But that's my personal opinion. I mean, Mike has grown almost anything in anything.
And I'm so glad you get to share his knowledge. Hey, Jackie, I think this is an amazing amount of information to share with people. And since we've still got so much to talk about, all you listeners out there, Jackie has agreed to do a second episode with me. And so that is going to be more focused on moving outdoors in like a backyard garden.
Awesome. I thank you so much, Marla, for letting me share with your audience. And I always tell people, my listeners, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to us.
Yeah. And we'll post links. I don't know who I'm talking to, but Jackie, you are sending me links. So we'll make sure to put those in the show notes so people can go to your website and get all of the great information that you have up there. Matter of fact, you have a free course up there right now, don't you?
We do have a free course. And then I think we're going to we did like the 2020 Organic Gardener Podcast Garden Challenge in January. And I think we're going to relaunch that again this spring. So you could be looking out for that. But yeah, we have a free organic garden course. And then we're also working on like an Organic Oasis masterclass.
Nice. So organicgardenerpodcast.com, and we'll post the link in the show notes.
Awesome.
So everybody, take care. We hope you find your silver lining in all of this, and tune in later this month to hear more about Jackie and the Organic Gardener and how you can use her wonderful information in your own home and your own life.
Thanks, Marla.
Thank you again. That wraps up this episode of the Green Gab Podcast. Ready to use what you learned? Get the show notes with all the resources mentioned in this episode. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you never miss an episode. Thank you again for listening and for leaving a review. And remember that living a little greener is easier than you think.